Hey guys, this is Bridget from the DeVay Homestead. Welcome back. Today we have our Yoda inspired hat. Our hat is just a simple base green hat with these fun Yoda ears. On the hat we used what I have some videos on, which is called a hurdle stitch, which is a really popular video that I have. And it mimics the way Yoda has his creases. So this was a really fun hat to make, and I think you guys will enjoy making it. Let's see how it's done. To start our hat, we're going to first begin with our cast on. I'm using a number 4 worsted weight yarn, so I'm using 2 strands as 1 yarn. I'm using 1 skein, and I'm pulling 1 in from here and 1 from here. That way I don't have to have 2 separate skeins of yarn. If you want, you can pull from 2 separate skeins. I'm going to start my cast on by doing a slip knot and placing that on my anchor peg. To do the double E-wrap cast on, I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to double wrap each peg and knit off. Double E-wrap and knit off. So continue casting on all the way around and then meet me back here. Once you finish your cast on, we're ready to start the brim of our hat. Today we are going to be using a knit 1, purl 1 rib stitch using the U-wrap knit stitch. In order to do the U-wrap knit stitch, we're going to take our working yarn and we're going to place it in front of our first peg, and we're going to wrap the peg that looks like a U. So if you can see, the yarn looks like it made a U. We're going to take the bottom yarn and yarn over. Next, we're going to purl the next stitch. So our pattern is knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, all the way around. For our purl stitch, we're going to take our hook and take it and come underneath the loop that is on the peg. We are going to scoop up the bottom loop, take the old loop off the peg, and put the new loop on and gently pull. So let's do that again. So our knit stitch goes above the hoop that's on the loop that's on the peg. Then our purl stitch goes below. And I have other videos in detail on how to do the U-wrap rib stitch. Okay, so we want to do the knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 all the way around, and we want to do that for 8 complete rows to do the brim of this hat. So go ahead and finish 8 complete rows and then meet me back here. When you are finished your first row, take this off your anchor peg, your starting yarn, and just push it to the inside of your loom and let it hang, and we will take care of that at the end of our hat. We'll weave that in. So continue on your 8 rows and then meet me back here. I'm finished with the rib brim of my hat and I'm ready to start the body. For the body of the hat, it is going to be a 4-row repeat. For the first 2 rows, we are going to do an E-wrap knit stitch. For our E-wrap knit stitch, we are going to take our working yarn behind the peg and wrap it like a cursive E. Since I'm doing several in a row, I can go ahead and wrap those and then knit off. So our first 2 rows of the 4-row repeat is just our E-wrap knit stitch. So go ahead and finish your 2 rows and meet me back here. I just completed row 2 and now I'm ready for rows 3 and 4. For rows 3 and 4, we are going to do a knit 1, purl 1, stitch all the way around, so similar to what we did on the brim of our hat, except instead of a U-wrap knit, we are using an E-wrap knit. So for our next 2 rows, we are going to knit 1, purl 1, all the way around. This 4-row repeat is called the hurdle stitch. I have a really popular video on my YouTube channel where I made a hurdle stitch hat for an adult hat, or it could be a kid hat if it is smaller, so you can check that out as well. It's a really cool looking stitch, but it's very simple to achieve by just doing 2 rows of our E-wrap knit stitch and 2 rows of our knit 1, purl 1 using our E-wrap. So go ahead and finish off rows 3 and 4 and then continue, start your pattern back over with 2 knit rows and then 2 rows of your knit 1, purl 1. So you want to keep doing that 4-row repeat until you get the length of your hat. Whenever you get to the length of the hat and you do your last row, you want to make sure you end that row with an E-wrap stitch, because that's going to make your drawstring bind off a little bit better. For this hat, I'm going to do a total of 25 rows. So if you would like your hat smaller or longer, you can do more or less rows than that. So finish up your rows of the body of your hat and meet me back here. I just finished my 25 rows of the body of my hat and now I'm ready for my drawstring bind off. Once I'm finished my drawstring, then I'm going to go to the loop, the yarn that we started with, and I'm also going to make a knot with that and weave it in. And I'll show you that. I'm going to weave it in just a little bit away from the end, and I'm going to make a knot to secure. And then I'm going to weave came off my yarn needle. And once that is complete, I can cut off my excess yarn and turn our hat inside out. And because we did a U-wrap for our brim, you want to kind of stretch that out. Watch how these will kind of, see how that just stretched out? So you kind of just want to work them to get them to lay right. And there we have the base of our Yoda hat. And now we can add his ears. To make our Yoda ear, we're going to first make a slip knot to do our cast on, but we're going to leave a pretty long tail, maybe like 18 inches, because we're going to use this to secure the Yoda ear to our hat. So we're going to have a long tail, And we're going to make our slip knot and place that slip knot on peg 1, or just any peg on your loom. With our working yarn, we are going to double E-wrap and cast on 7 more pegs, so that we get a total of 8 pegs. So I have a total of 8 pegs that are cast on, and what I'm going to do is number these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm numbering them 1 through 8, so as I'm telling you what pegs to do, it will help if I numbered them for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to first start our first row going to the right. We're going to skip the first peg and leave it alone. We're always going to skip the first peg on the row and not wrap it, whether we're going this way or this way. So we're going to we're going to E-wrap each peg in this row and knit off. I'm going to just do a few at a time. Then I can just take this yarn and just put that to the inside. So I've finished row 1, and now we need to go back on row 2. So I'm going to purl the next row, but when I do the purl, I'm going to end in an E-wrap, and I'll show you that in a second. So the first row, we skipped the first one and E-wrapped the rest of the pegs. The second row, we're going to skip the first one and purl all the pegs 7 through 2, and when we get to peg 1, we're going to E-wrap it, and I'll show you that here in a second. The reason we do that is because it's going to eliminate the big weird loops on the end and help the ends of our rows look better. Okay, I've come to the end of the row, but instead of purling the last one, I'm going to E-wrap and knit off. So we have complete rows 1 and rows 2. For row 3, we're going to E-wrap 2 through 8 again and knit off. Now coming back for row 4 is going to look exactly like row 2. We're going to purl pegs 7 through 2 and then E-wrap and knit off peg 1. And E-wrap and knit off the last peg. When we get to row 5, we are going to start our decrease. And the way we are going to do our decrease is we are going to take the loop on peg 2, loop on peg 2, and we're going to move it over to peg 3. Then we are going to take the loop from peg 1 and move it over to peg 2 and just tighten that up just a little bit. Now we are going to E-wrap and knit off pegs 3 through 8. And when I knit this one off, I'm going to knit the 2 bottom loops over the top loop. Now, coming back on row 7, row 6, we're also going to do a decrease. So for row 6, we're going to take the loop on peg 7 and move it over to peg 6. We are going to take peg 8 and move it over to peg 7. And you can tighten up your yarn. And now we're going to do our purl, and we're going to go through both of these loops to do our purl. And our last one, always on a purl row, we're going to end with an E-wrap and knit off. So now we are finished row 6 and we are going to do row 7. For row 7, we are not doing a decrease, so we're going to E-wrap every peg except the first one and knit off. Coming back for row 8, we're going to purl, and end our row in an E-wrap knit stitch. Now going back to our right for row 9, we are going to E-wrap every peg except the first one and knit off. For row 10, we're going to purl, and end with our E-wrap. So we have completed 10 rows. For rows 11, 12, 13, and 14, we are going to do the same thing we did back and forth. So for the next 4 rows, do exactly what we just did with the E-wrap and then purl on the way back, ending in an E-wrap. I'm finishing up row 14 and now we are ready to move on to row 15. For row 15 we are going to do a decrease. So to do our decrease we are going to take the second to last loop and move it over one peg. Take our last loop and move it over one peg. And then E-wrap and knit off the rest of the row. Remember, 2 loops go over the top. For row 16, we're also going to do a decrease. So to do our decrease here, we're going to take the second to last loop off and move it over to our left. Take our last loop, move it over, tighten that up a little bit, and then we're going to purl. And end our row in an E-wrap. That was rows 15 and 16. For rows 17 and 18, we are just going to do our normal row with no decrease. So E-wrap and knit off the last 3. Coming back, we're going to purl 2 and then E-wrap our last one. Okay, now we have 2 more rows and both of those are going to be a decrease. So to decrease again, we're going to take the second to last peg and move it over. Take the last peg, move it over, tighten that up, E-wrap for our E-wrap row. Now we are going back to the left and we are going to do another decrease. So we are going to move the middle loop over to the left, and the loop on the far right over. Now this is our purl row, but we are on the end, so we are going to E-wrap, knit off. Then we are going to take our left peg and we are going to move it over to the right and knit off. Now I can cut my yarn. And for my bind off, I'm just going to bring that loop through and take my ear off of my loom, and we have, tighten that up, and we have a Yoda ear. So now we have to put the Yoda ear onto the hat. I've threaded my yarn onto a yarn needle, and you just want to weave in the tail from the point of the Yoda hat. So I finished weaving that in, and then I took the long end and I put it on my yarn needle so I can attach it to my hat. So for Yoda's ear, I have this one already sewed on, and I don't know if you can tell, but Yoda, his ear is not flat like this. He has a curve here and a curve here on his ear. So we can achieve that when we are sewing it onto the hat. So what we're going to do is fold this over, and we're going to attach it to the hat like that. So you just kind of have to play and get the fold you want. And then I'm going to attach this. To the hat. And then so we're just going to sew it across here, and then when we get to the top, before we secure that down, we want to fold his ear and then go across here. So you just kind of have to play with it and see where it's going to go. So first I'm going to attach the ear, get it on there, and then I'm going to play with the way it sticks out, and I'll show you that in a second. So see, I've folded the ear, and then I'm going to go straight across that. This is where it helps to have a mannequin or a kid, or you can just use anything around your house to put the hat on. So when we're finishing sewing the ear, we can really get the correct flop. So when I first sewed this on, it was laying funny, and then I pulled the stitches to make it lay the way I want to. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. So I'm just going to see where I think it needs to be more secure and just play with it from there. So just sew on your ear till you get it to be the right flop. And then I'm going to go in the inside of my hat. I'm going to turn my hat inside out, and I'm going to secure the yarn with a knot. And our Yoda hat is complete. If you would like, you could take some white yarn and put some sprigs of hair coming out the top if you would like, but I kind of like it without, so it just depends on what you like. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel so you can see some super fun videos and some awesome characters we have coming up. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.